The Cubs have been waiting patiently for Willson Contreras to bust out of his early season slump, knowing his power stroke eventually would return. The wait ended on a cold Friday afternoon at Wrigley Field when the Cubs catcher celebrated his bobblehead day promotion with a pair of home runs and a career-high 7 RBIs in an 11-2 romp over the White Sox. Has to be the bobblehead, right? That's absolutely correct, manager Joe Maddon cracked. It had everything to do with the bobblehead. Of course it had nothing to do with the bobblehead and everything to do with Contreras' talent. He established himself as one of the game's best hitting catchers last year and was the club's most valuable player when the Cubs made their big run at the start of the second half before he suffered a hamstring injury in August. But he has struggled to live up to the hype in 2018, failing to deliver when it mattered most. Contreras came into the opener of the City Series with only 1 home run and 9 RBIs, hitting .147 with runners in scoring position, the 11th worst average in the majors. That all changed on Freaky Friday when he cranked a first-inning grand slam off Carson Fulmer to make it 5-0, hit a solo home run in the 6th and added a 2-run double in the 7th. In one afternoon, all his worries drifted away like a hot dog wrapper floating across the outfield grass. Willson was back to being Willson again. Contreras wound up 4 for 5 with 2 doubles to go along with his 2 homers, becoming the first Cub with 7 extra base hits over 2 games since at least 1913. As far as those records go back, baseball is a game of ups and downs, and it was just a matter of getting in the right rhythm, Contreras said through an interpreter. I think of the beginning of this year to that of last year, and I'm not expecting to have the same start to every season. It's just a matter of making the adjustments necessary on the field. Photos from the White Sox vs. Cubs game at Wrigley Field on May 11, 2018. In his last 2 games, Contreras is 7 for 10 with 3 doubles, 2 triples, 2 homers and 8 RBIs. He's the first Cub with 3 or more extra base hits in back-to-back games since Billy Williams on Sept. 8-10, 1968, and the third to do so since 1908, joining Randy Hundley, 1966. I definitely think the last couple of games have been 2 of my best so far, he said. But just like I've had 2 really good back-to-back games, I've also had some games where I was making solid contact but hitting it right at people. Contreras enjoyed watching both of his shots, and who could blame him? Despite a 17 miles per hour wind blowing in from right, the first one landed in the front row of the left field bleachers. He ran sideways out of the box, confident the wind would not hold it back. The second one nearly hit the video board, and he barely moved after crushing the pitch from Chris Beck. Maddon pointed out a defensive play by Contreras was just as important. With runners on first and second and no outs in the third, Contreras picked Matt Davidson off second base. I think it was the turning point in the game for us, Contreras said. While the Sox are having an awful season, even by rebuild standards, most thought they could ramp up their game for a showdown against their crosstown rivals. During the Sox rebuild in 1999, they swept the red-hot Cubs at Wrigley and it precipitated an epic plunge from which the Northsiders never recovered. But Friday was not that day. The Cubs capitalized on the Sox weaknesses, pounding Fulmer and the bullpen. Chris Bryant also homered and drove in 2 runs, and the Cubs knocked out 15 hits. Tyler Chatwood, 3-3, notched the victory with an uninspiring 5-inning outing in which he allowed 2 runs on 3 hits and 5 walks. Contreras said he was thankful to the Cubs for giving him a bobblehead. The Cubs were thankful the old Contreras returned. Honestly, I'm just glad that I was able to keep everything simple, he said. That was my approach today and I was able to do pretty well today. P. Sullivan at ChicagoTribune.com, Twitter at PW Sullivan. You're not allowed to root for both the Cubs and the White Sox, but why? White Sox pitching against the recent Cubs offense, what could go wrong? From AJ to Big Z, City Series memorable moments.